Good afternoon, everyone. This is Griffin with Motility Software's Professional Services Department, and welcome to our 3 p.m. Eastern inventory webinar. For those of you who joined us this morning for our CRM and deal desking sessions, welcome. For those of you who did not, we will be hosting these same sessions, same date, same day, same time. So there will be follow-up CRM sessions next week, same time frame, 10 a.m. Eastern, followed by a 1 o'clock Eastern deal desking session. So again, if you have any questions, anything that didn't make sense to you, feel free to rejoin next week. For this session, we'll give about 4 or 5 minutes here. I'll let a couple stragglers log in, get settled in. So take this time to top off your copy as I will be doing, and I'll talk to you here in just a few minutes. All right, everybody. Thank you for being patient. For those of you just joining us, welcome. My name is Griffin Greer with the Professional Services Department here at Motility. And today at 3, we are covering the inventory module. So for those of you that joined us this morning, again, welcome back. This should fall in line with what you've seen all day, which is kind of creating a quote deal, getting customer record in. Well, the third piece to this trinity, of course, is the units. So today we're going to discuss stocking in inventory. We probably won't deal too much on the accounting side, but I will discuss kind of where that is coming from. But today I really want to point you towards how you're keying in your inventory and how you manage it moving forward. There's tons of different ways. Some of you being volume dealers, you need the quick and the easy. Those of you who put a bit more detail onto your units, you'll want to kind of, specify a bit more information. So hopefully we'll meet kind of both ends and everything in between. And of course, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to pose them in the Q&A section. I will try to answer them as we go, or of course at the end in a Q&A session, maybe about five minutes at the end. So let's get started. So the inventory module, for those of you who are a multi-location or a multi-rooftop dealer, it's similar to our CRM, right? I don't have to open up my CRM in location B or location C to see my customers in those databases, right? It's all shared. So our team can prospect for any location. And the same goes for inventory purposes. If I'm stocking an inventory, whether I open up location 1's inventory, 2, or 3, I'll be able to search up the company as a whole. What the module that you open up does dictate is that when you do create a new unit record, it's going to default to the location you opened. Okay, so that's kind of the biggest primary kind of why would I open one versus the other. So for example, I opened company A, number 1. So when I add a new vehicle record, it's presuming I'm in company 1, location A. Follows suit. So if I'm in company 2, location B, company 3, location C, etc. If I wanted to search up a B or a C piece of inventory, when you click on the search button down here at the bottom, you'll be able to search any of those locations, A, B, C, D, all the way down, or you can search all stores by leaving it blank, maybe putting sold no. This is if you were asking me, Griffin, what is our active inventory that is not sold store or company-wide? Do a search for sold no, and now you have every vehicle record that's in the system. So if this information were accurate, I could comfortably say I have 1,208 units on our lot, and I could start to sort this by status, vehicle type, new versus used. Of course, this isn't a good report for this, but this is a great screen to be familiar with. Otherwise, just like we talked about in the other screens, you can customize how your search results display. Maybe PDI amount is important for you to quickly check which units have been marked as PDI complete and which units have PDI actual amounts assigned. So I can put in here PDI actual, and I'll stick with that for now, because now if I scroll through, there's the PDI actual amounts, and now you can be creative with your filtering. Show me all my units that are greater than 0, and now I can see every unit that has PDI assigned to it, and there's only 26 of these unit records. So luckily, all of our sale pending units do have PDIs assigned. That's good for our sales portion, but again, these little pieces of information can go a long way, especially if you're creative with your filters. Another example, I want to see all my new fifth wheels. So search up everything active. So of the 1,208 records I have, I can filter for new by typing in an N in the filter here. And, oh, I don't have vehicle type. So let's go to customize layout, scroll down to vehicle type, add it. And now in the vehicle type field, I can type in fifth wheel. And now I have 31 unit records, of which some are marked as sold or preemptively sold. So again, these filters can be your friend. It's kind of like a live report. If you like how the layout is, you can hit save so that every time you come in, vehicle type will be there. PDI actual will be there. You don't lose any of that information. So everyone's search screen can be customized a bit differently, but I would advise you, just like the deal desking side, come up with common terms or fields that your team searches by. We need to have vehicle type in there. We need to have floor plan company in there. What's a great way to find all my floored units? Well, I could go to search and search for floor plan company in this listing. Well, why wouldn't I just do what I just did? Search for everything active, so 1208, customize my layout, put floor plan company in here. Oops, check it once, don't double click it. Now that my floor plan company is in here, if I want to see everything stored with GE, you just type GE. So I have 164 unsold new inventory that are marked with GE's floor plan. So the reason I keep reiterating and showing this is you'll find that you may run reports less and less if you get your search screen to a way that you can immediately find these results. And then remember, you can print this as it is. So I could print out what I'm showing here rather than pulling a report. I frequently find folks aren't searching fully within the system and they resort to reporting to find the information they need. When in reality, you have just about every field you could use in here. Why not get your search results the way you would exactly want them? So just keep that in mind as we work forward from this. There's always a little bit of tweaking you can do so that all of the information is readily available in front of you. You don't have to run reports or go elsewhere to find this. So again, let's go back. I'm going to open up unit inventory from scratch so you can see what the screen looks like. But really, you're always going to open up to the same thing. It's a blank vehicle record. It's going to show as gray. I can't do anything. A lot of people think there's something wrong because this is all grayed out. Nope, the system's just awaiting your next input. So whether I'm hitting add to add a new piece of inventory, you could do that. You could do the search like I just showed and start plugging in your search parameters. Or if you know the stock number exactly, you just type it in. As a matter of fact, as soon as you go into this screen, you don't even have to click down there. It's just there. So from here, if you type in that stock number 12345, hit enter. There it is. You can also search by the last X number of numbers at the VIN. So if I put in 58700, didn't find anything because I typed the VIN in wrong. Let's try that again, 58700. Still not finding it. I might not have my search VIN on, but usually you'll be able to use kind of those last four to find that. So I may have it turned off here, but you should be able to reliably use that partial VIN search here. And it may find, you know, multiple portions of the VIN that it has, but you should be able to find it that way. But usually stock number, I think, is the most proficient way to find a unit. Before we also get into it, you can jump to window sticker reports, some of our other reporting. Now, before we add a new unit record from scratch, I do want to talk about what I mentioned at the beginning of our call. Every dealership likes to stock in units separately or differently. Some may do it from scratch, like I will show you in the beginning, but there are other ways of doing this that make this process a lot easier. As a matter of fact, let me just show you a small example that may make the rest of this training kind of like, well, we're going to do it that way, which is good. I would prefer you to do it this way, but it may not work for everybody. And what I mean is, instead of adding new vehicle records and typing in everything from scratch, the system is all about automation and pre-filling or populating your tables for you. Now, I could do that for my make model pick list, you know, all the makes and models we've ever keyed in. But what if we created templates? And what do I mean by template? Well, I can search my database and say, show me template units only, and hit list. So what's a template? A template unit typically does not have an actual stock number. I mean, it will have one, but usually it's not a number. It would be like a name, like in this case, Ford F-150 template. All right, so what does that mean? So let me pick that template. This is not a real vehicle record. It has a status of template. There's no accounting values tied to it. It's not a real unit, but it is a placeholder that we could copy from every time we stock in a new Ford F-150. So what would it pre-fill for us? The make and model, whether it's new or used, and you could have used templates, but usually it's mainly new, right, for items that you frequently purchase. The vehicle type can pre-fill, the number, look at all the detail that could populate here. I know I'm on my RV motorized tab. I currently have the auto tab turned off, and I know I'm showing an auto example here. But it's not specific to vehicle type, whether it's an RV, a travel trailer, a fifth wheel, a boat, a truck, you name it, we can copy from it. So once you have all of this detail in here, the vehicle weight, the length, all of this stuff that could be, you know, static across multiple units, the things we wouldn't fill out would be like the color, right? The color changes from you know, purchase to purchase. The VIN changes from purchase to purchase. But usually everything else is pretty static. You could also preload, standard accessories. So if there are manufacturer installed accessories that you want to show up on the quote sheet, so when you show value to your customers by, showing all of these items that come pre-installed, those could all be listed out here as factory installed accessories, power windows, a gate lift, whatever the case may be. Now, instead of having to key those accessories in live, you just simply copy it. And if any of those manufacturer installed accessories did not come on this unit, you just delete those off, right? It's easier to remove items that aren't needing to be there than having to rekey in everything from scratch. So all I'm trying to show you is all of this can pre-fill the financial information. So our base selling price, the markups, our default floor plan company we use, the GL accounts. This is the part where the template gets really helpful, because now instead of having your inventory team have to remember which GLs get assigned to which units, which floor plans get assigned, the template does that for you. You're just filling in the items that are different. The VIN, the color, maybe the price on this one's a little different, but it's much less information to populate. The other item that this helps you in is unit images. So if you have stock images for these brands that you want to stamp in there, they can be loaded in the template and copied to your new units as well. This makes adding new inventory that's going to get fed up to your website much easier, because now you worry about one set of photos for that brand, and those photos will show up appropriate on your website, and they're not going to be needing to take new photos for every difference of that unit. So a lot of things can be predefined by that template, and that makes it much easier. So now anytime I'm stocking in a Ford F-150, I can hit copy from, use the next stock number in the list, find my F-150 template by simply going to F-150. Looks like I have a couple in here because we've created different ones for each color. So maybe I stocked in a red F-150 today. Great, we'll copy from that one. Now all of this is pre-filled. If there were any accessories, my financial information. Now I'm just left to plug in a VIN. We'll go ahead and change this to ready for sale because it's ready to go. And now I'm ready to make my accounting purchase entries. I don't have to do anything else. This vehicle is now available for sale. Oh, I do need to assign it a year. The templates don't need to be year specific, but you might want them to be, because standardizations do change from year over year. So apologize if it's a little loud here. It's raining pretty hard, so hopefully my audio isn't too impacted here. But again, I think that this is probably the best and most efficient way to add inventory. Now, if you buy a unit that you don't have a template for, you can still just go ahead and key it in. But for units you purchase multiple times throughout the year, frequently, possibly multiple bodies at a time, instead of doing one by one, this copy will make it fairly simple. We can take it a step further. What if I bought 6 Ford F-150s all at once, and we bought a shipment of these products? Well, you could do a multi-unit copy. First, find the unit you want to copy from. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to copy from our F-150 template here. Maybe pick this black one, or maybe a non-color specific, since we're stocking in a couple. And now I can put in the VINs one by one, and forgive my VINs, they're going to not be correct. I can put in the color, the differences. So let's say we bought 5 of these. Well, we'll go ahead and auto-assign the stock numbers based on what's available, hit OK. And now I've created 5 separate stock numbers all at once. And instead of having to create them one by one, they're all in here now as a Ford F-150. So now let's go in and search up all the Ford F-150s in the system. And there should be a few with not much age on them. And any of the ones that got keyed in today would be populating with no age, copied from our template. So you have options available to you if you don't want to stock in everything by hand. Here's another example. If I add a brand new piece of inventory, do I use the next stock number on the list? Sure. It's giving me my stock number, but nothing else. Everything else is completely blank on this unit record, aside from my pack. That's probably coming from a company default. Now let's go ahead and do this unit addition by hand. First, we'll put in the year 20. Whether it's a new, used, or a demo unit, we'll say new. And now, look what happens when I pick my make dropdown. The system's going to make recommendations based off of what you've purchased in the past. So if I go in here and I put Ford in, and I pick the drop down for make, it's going to give me all my available makes. And you can see it can pre-fill some information as well. The fuel type, the type, vehicle type, even some of the GLs. So now when I pick Ford F-150, it pre-populated my unit GL accounts. I could even have it pre-populate my floor plan like my template does. But here's some things that it will not copy over. Things like the price, things like the images, things like detail, like the gross vehicle weight, the length, the width. This all information does not come from this make model table. While I can pre-fill the GL accounts, there's not a whole ton that can do. If that is a better format for you than managing and creating a list of templates that you copy from, you could have your team just manipulate this make model pick list. So your inventory purchaser or your inventory manager or whoever the case may be, they can work on this screen and say, okay, our dealership purchases or has purchased or possibly will purchase anything that you see in this table. And you can pre-fill the make, the model, the type, the manufacturer, new or used, which floor plan company gets populated, the GLs. And if you scroll over, we can do markups, cost line, past percentages. There's a good bit that we can pre-fill here. MSRP, tag and title, but I will tell you that the template takes you further. So it's up to you to make I would say the decision now. Will it be easier for us to manage templates and keep those up to date to make sure we copy from, or do we keep together a list in this table here and this will suffice? Some dealerships, this make model pick list is more than enough to accommodate their inventory ads, and they go that route. So, you know, it's up to you all. I'm going to go the third method here, and I'm going to pretend like I'm just going to key everything in by hand. Come in here, populate this with pickup, fill out my VIN, come in here and add my accessories, any manufacturer installed ones, then go through and work through my, okay, what's my invoice say? Well, we purchased this at $15,000, or we're doing a 25% markup. So again, know whichever way you do it, you know, is going to be the right way for you. I'm just trying to show that you do have options here as to how you create inventory. Let's say you don't even want to deal with a list of templates and you just copy from existing pieces that you sold. You can do that too. Add a new stock number, copy from what? Not a template. Let's just go find an old sold unit that we had. So maybe I've got in here a Wildwood, you know, but again, it's up to if you sold that unit in the past. I'll keep my example the same, Ford F-150. So look at all these old sold F-150s we've done. Well, maybe this 2018 one has some good info on it. And then we can just go ahead and this is the new record that it created, and we'll just copy from that. And you can see here's where we copied transactions from. You can always remove the detail if need be, so you don't see where it was copied from. And now I have a new unit record that I'll go ahead and mark as ready for sale. Plug in my correct VIN, and it's the exact same process. So however you're creating your units in inventory, I would just try to decide what we think as a team would be best. We will train you however you need to, but just know there's quite a few options available to you when you want to purchase. I think if you asked yourselves, you know, what is the most important part, it's how do we want to simplify the GL accounts being assigned to units? Because if we do everything by hand, and I add a unit from scratch, our team is going to have to know what the revenue account for that make and model is, the inventory account. You know, those are pieces of information that can screw up accounting down the road. I wouldn't want inventory team members to have to worry about that. So let's let the templates dictate where things should go, or the make model pick lists. That will make the inventory purchase team just responsible for getting the unit information in right and not so much worried about the back end accounting. So just some recommendations there on my side. But let's go ahead and just continue keying this in by hand, just so we can attend to each field and you'll know what it means, what it does, whether it's important, etc. I'm going to do another Wildwood here. Or here, let's do a Jayco J-Flight. Or I'm sorry, I have a Greyhawk in here. So I'm stocking in a used piece of inventory. Here's my VIN. It's going to throw the error. This is a non-17 character serial number. It won't stop me. It's just a warning. Maybe double check my what I keyed in here, but I know for a fact that's not going to be right. Let's see here. Okay, from here we've got company number, the profit center, and the initial and current locations. So what these are designed for this is the accounting company and where the accounting balances are held. So for those of you working just on the account or on the inventory side, just know that the asset value belongs to whichever rooftop you pick. So for the accounting savvy on the call, if I ran a balance sheet, this is the location that this unit would show up on the balance sheet. Okay, so that's primarily the reason that you would want to pay attention to this. If you're a single location with a single rooftop, these will likely always look the same. If you need to transfer between stores, say I'm selling a unit out of my third rooftop, you can transfer units by simply hitting that profit center and hitting save. The system will make the necessary accounting entries to move that unit balance from one store to the next. It's actually very simple. So transfers from one location to the next are very simple in the system. Don't fight it by making your own accounting entries. The system will do so for you. You just pick the correct profit center here and hit save. The other three of these really shouldn't change too much. However, if you wanted to track that this unit got purchased in at location 1 and it's currently at location 3, you can do that. It's mostly for information purposes. It's not controlling much. However, if this says it's currently at lot 3, I would expect the accounting balances to reflect that. So you could use this as a, hey, did accounting do the right thing by transferring the unit? Because if not, you would want these two things to agree to one another. Otherwise, there could be an inventory accounting discrepancy. So just food for thought there. As we continue, the vehicle type, this is really helpful too in making sure that when you run end of year reports that you're tracking how many pickups did we sell versus fifth wheels versus, however. These don't always have to use separate GL accounts. We could still say that pickup is in the motorized GL account, but we can run front-end reporting to track of all of the motorized sales we've done, how many are, pickups versus other motorized types. This type will help identify that. For those of you in our sessions earlier today, you saw a little bit on statuses for the CRM and for deal desking. Units also have their own status as well. This is both so that we can feed your website appropriately and pull units from the web when they are marked as on order or on hold, possibly before they should become available for sale. But that status should also follow suit with what's going on in the deal. If you recall correctly, when we did that deal, the deal is going to move a unit automatically to a sale pending status or an on hold status. This is great because now when your inventory or your sales team pulls reports, this will disinclude it from the available inventory options because we know that there's currently a working deal. Now, I would not expect sales team members or anyone on the front end of the staff to manipulate this status. If we've set it up correctly, the status should move forward logically based on the deal. And if it doesn't, we'd probably want other statuses here to reflect what's going on with this piece of inventory. Perhaps the service team needs to come in here and mark that a unit needs service, or it's missing parts, or the parts are on order. Again, I would not be overcomplicating your statuses if you can afford to. Too many times I've shown up in a dealership and they've got 20, 30 statuses in here, and it just is a mess. Realistically, we just want to identify, is the unit available for sale? Is it on hold? Has it been marked sold? And then possibly some of the items in between, like needing detail or needing extra service. So again, these statuses shouldn't be set up in a vacuum. When you set up your inventory piece statuses, you should involve the sales team. You should involve the people using the deal desking module to identify really all three of those statuses should kind of integrate together, right? As a deal moves from quote to finished, it should change the unit statuses appropriately and the customer statuses. So really sitting down all together and getting that process in line will make sure that everything's running smoothly. I don't expect your inventory team here to constantly change the status here up until a unit gets sold. The system should pretty much do that for you if we've set it up correctly. With that in mind, take a look at some of these checkboxes. Your team members should never have to check sold yes or no. Why? because a deal will automatically check a unit as sold when it's marked unit delivered or one of our other done units or vehicle statuses on the inventory side. So no one should actually manually mark a unit as sold or unsold. Let the system handle it. If someone is doing so, something was wrong, right? If I had to come in here and mark this unit as sold, where's my deal for that unit? Why did the deal not mark it as sold? Did we put a deal in? Is the deal set up correctly to mark the unit as sold? You know, that raises a lot of questions if someone is manually interfering with these. And just like the other portions of the software, at the permissions level, we can prevent users from clicking on these things so that they can't. And if a guy is telling you, hey, I need to mark this unit sold, I need access to do so, I would step it back and say, well, hold on. The deal should have marked it sold, so why are you manually doing so? Oh, well, we forgot to put a deal in, but I need to pull it off of our inventory list. You know, there's a reason why that workaround is happening. So, you know, no team member should need to manually click on this unless, of course, you weren't using our deal desking system and you needed to manually use that. So I would just keep that in mind if someone's asking you for access as to clicking on that. It's usually part of a bigger problem. On order, this is up to you all on how you key in units. Some dealerships I have worked with, they put in on order units and code them as a status of on order, so it's easy to see on the reports. That on order checkbox can do a number of things. You can search on the reporting side for only units on order, so you know what's incoming. So there's a number of things why you would use that checkbox there. Alternatively, you know, I've shown you all about 3 different ways of purchasing inventory, right? Manually adding everything, copying from a template, letting the make and model pick list pick for you the detail on that unit. There's even a 4th way. You could create a unit purchase order. Now, many of you may think, oh, this is exactly how we want to key in units. We want to create a purchase order for every unit we purchase, stock it in that way so we can track how long it's been on order, you know, when it was fulfilled, when it was posted to accounting. That's fine. I will tell you that the reason I think a lot of folks haven't used this PO system as much is you can only order 1 unit at a time. So if you frequently purchase 6 or 7 pieces of inventory all at once, you cannot create all 6 vehicles from 1 purchase order. You would have to create 1 purchase order per unit. So for those of you who are hearing that and saying, well, this won't work for us, unfortunately, you'll have to just disregard this portion. But let me show you, if this is still of interest to you and you do 1 purchase order per unit, how this could help you. So typically what we do is we'll say, okay, I'm purchasing from a manufacturer. Let's put in Thor. So we'll put in their company info. I think I have a record for them. Yes, I do. Perfect. We're purchasing a unit from Thor. Who's the default floor plan company for our floor units? Well, we could type this in manually, or we could still use our templates. If I have a Thor unit and I'm searching for a template, just click the little 3 dots here or the ellipsis, and you can search up that Thor template. Now, I don't know if I have any Thor units in here, and forgive me, I'm not as well versed on Thor's inventory. Probably should have picked a manufacturer I'm more familiar with. But I'm going to pick let's just grab one of these Fleetwood units. So now, and look, that changed my header information. So, okay, I realize, oh, I picked the wrong manufacturer. This is a Fleetwood unit. Now, I'm copying from a template just like before. So all of this new unit information is coming from a template. Maybe this one doesn't come with this accessory, so we can just remove those off. But instead, I just have a base cost of $99,000 floored to this floor plan account. Our floor plan company, if we don't have a default setup on Fleetwood, maybe I know that it's GE. So I'm just going to search up entity floor. Oops, I can type that in correctly. There's our floor plan company. And now I'm ready to go ahead and create this purchase order. So I'm going to go ahead and down here and hit save. And if we've gone ahead and placed this order, I could either print this out and send out the invoice or just mark it as ordered. What's my reference number? Typically, the reference number is set up for, what's this going to show up as? If you don't put anything in here, it's just going to default to the purchase order number, and it's going to call it PO 35. And it's going to do the same for the stock number, too. However, I noticed I need approvals to be able to approve this. So we could set up inventory approvals that will only allow folks to approve, what they're available for. Unfortunately, I don't know if this account is set up to approve, or if I'm if I'm still just a, someone who can order but not approve. So I do have a question that popped up. So I'm going to go ahead and answer that, and then we'll continue. The question is from Denny. It says, we are currently in low inventory status and are selling from a list of ordered units. Will these purchased ordered units show in inventory? That is absolutely correct, Denny. So just like we mentioned earlier, I create that PO. As soon as that purchase order is created and marked as ordered, it will create the purchase order for us. So all these ones in the not ordered status, these do not yet have a stock number. And we can give one ahead of time, but typically as soon as the unit's marked as ordered, take a look at what the stock number the system assigned. It just uses the PO number, and you can override this with the true stock number. But yes, Denny, you will have these units available in inventory to add to a deal to then sell. So even though the unit hasn't arrived yet, you can still track that it's on order, not yet at the dealership, but you can continue forward with a quote or deal to finish that process. I hope that answers your question. Now, I'm not going to kind of go through this whole PO process. We've still got a lot of inventory to see, but just know that this follows suit in that once that PO gets fulfilled, we'll move continue, fulfill it, bringing the inventory item in, and then we post it to accounting when we truly want to debit that asset to our balance sheet. So this creates a unit just like we saw earlier. You're welcome, Denny. So this is a pretty good process, and for those of you who want one PO per unit, it should work just fine. I just know that it's those bulk purchasing dealers that have asked us, hey, is there any way it can add multiple units that currently it's just one per. Now, what's the advantage of a purchase order as opposed to doing that all by hand? You have a document that you could print out and send as a purchase order to a vendor or a company to utilize from. Outside of that, you could still mark a unit as on order, just like we've done through the PO, to show that, yes, this unit's not here, but I could go ahead and start a quote for this Jayco Greyhawk because it's now in inventory. So again, PO, if you need something to print out and you want that process to kind of be your inventory purchasing, templates and make, model, pick list if you want to pre-fill everything, or if you want to do everything by hand, just add and plug away. So, and you may find that sometimes certain models will be better keyed in by hand, others from a copy. You're not forced into any one method, just, find what's going to work best. Some of the rest of these checkboxes, like titled in-house, titled, these aren't doing anything. However, what they are doing is allowing you to flag for this on a report. So if I wanted to find all my sold pieces of inventory that we don't have titled, I could do a search for all unsold vehicles, and then also with these checkboxes not filled out. So whether you're consigning units for your customers or you just want to track, is the title in-house, have we sent out the title paperwork yet? Those checkboxes will allow you to both search by those as well as reporting. You can always look for titling, yes or no, or some sort of filter in between. So now, whether I'm doing an inventory search or I just want to do a report, those two checkboxes will help you find those units. So I go to unit inventory reports. I'm looking for items that have not been titled. So I'll go to titled, no, title in-house, no, and then we'll go ahead and find that information. So those boxes are not checked off automatically anywhere. These would be attended to. So really that first one here I would not check off, but any of these three in between, use these manually to help identify where the unit's at or information about the title work. The display on internet is also a checkbox you would check on and off. And this is a toggle that when we send your inventory feed to a website, usually we will use this checkbox to determine, is this vehicle allowed to show up? Now, we also have other filters, like maybe you don't want statuses. So obviously we don't want sold up there. Some dealerships choose to leave sale pending units on their website. So in case a customer inquires about that unit and it's already getting ready to be sold, they can swap them in to say, hey, this piece of inventory just sold, but there's a couple others like it that we might think that you like. Others will say, as soon as that unit is marked as sale pending, I want it being pulled from the web. So even though this display on internet is still checked off, because we have a filter to disinclude sale pending, it will drop off. So keeping that in mind, just let us know when we're setting up inventory feeds, how and what you'd like to filter in and out, and then you would code your inventory appropriately. If you want this unit to not show up on the web no matter what its status is, just uncheck that box, and now it will no longer show in your next inventory feed. On hold and hold salesman, we've talked about briefly on the deal desking side. What that means is if there's an on-hold checkbox here, again, this is not something your team needs to manipulate. So I know I've kind of gone back and forth on these checkboxes here, but I would say sold and on hold should never be manually clicked by your team. The deal desking module should be doing that for you. All 4 of these in between are for your team to use or not use based on, if that's valuable to your team. But these 2 will automatically check, the sold and the on hold. The on hold, simply, it's going to add it once it's been added to a deal. The date that it was added to the deal will populate in hold, and the salesman on that deal will populate there. And if you need to get right to that deal, you can click on either the on hold, and it'll open up deal desking from that deal, or you can click on this deal number box, and that's going to launch the most recent deal that this unit was added to. So for those of you on the inventory or sales management side, you'll be able to quickly reference exactly which deal this unit is potentially being held for. But again, your team should never have to manually click on hold, hold date, or hold salesman. All 3 of these will automatically populate from this unit being placed onto a deal. If it's put onto a quote, nothing's going to happen with those 3 boxes. But as soon as that quote turns into a deal, it will populate all 3 of these. Okay? Let's talk about our dates here. We have an expected delivery date. This is the expected delivery date of the unit to your lot. This is not the expected delivery date to a customer purchasing the unit. So if this unit's marked on order and it's expected to be here on the 27th of November, you can place that in here so your sales team has an idea as to how we schedule this deal out, because this unit's probably not going to be able to deliver until at the very least the end of November, if not the beginning of December. So that can help them on how they're coding these units. The purchase date, this is the date that this asset officially became the dealerships, right? So, this is saying that we purchased this unit on the 9th. So that is usually the start date for floor plan purposes. This is the date that you would show this unit on the books for accounting. And typically, when your team makes an accounting entry to purchase this unit in, right? I'm going to do a very quick example here because I think we'll spend more time on this on the accounting training or webinar. But so that you know how to book a unit to inventory, it's very simple. You put a purchase price in of, let's say, $12,000. And we're going to go ahead and floor plan this unit. Now, if you don't floor your units and you purchase them outright, this process is a little different. But for those of you that floor, you put the floor plan company here, the flooring GL account here, match your purchase price to the floored amount, which is typically about the same. Make sure your GL accounts for inventory are correct. This is a used piece of inventory. Maybe that doesn't make sense for our example. Let's mark it as new. And now I'm going to, and if you notice, my GL changes from new to used. So instead of being 4,300, 1,300, and 6,300, there now are new vehicle sales, new vehicle inventory, and new vehicle cost. It's missing my floor plan account and my additional cost account, which I'll just plug in here. But this unit's ready to have a purchase entry made for it. How do I do that? You click Create Accounting Transactions. Please fix all issues in red. Okay, let's find what those issues are. In this case, oh, it's because my floor company is wrong. But here's what it did. It added a floored transaction, debiting inventory by $12,000 using the GL account listed right here for inventory. And it's going to credit our floor plan account to the vendor we chose in that same amount. What purchase date did it use? The 9th. This is specified right here. If I had forward dated this purchase date to the end of the month, that's going to be the default date for this transaction. I'll go ahead and mark this posted to accounting. Now my assets have gone up by $12,000, and I'd show an active floor plan for this unit. This unit is now ready for sale, and we could do a deal from start to finish, and this would post correctly to accounting. So that was kind of quick that we did that. And I know there's multiple ways of flooring units and getting this information in here. So this is just one example that we can expand upon on the accounting webinars later this week, but just good for you to know it can be that simple for you to floor in new units. So now I have a floor date of which we know that the interest should start accruing. The sold date is going to automatically populate from the deal. So really, the only dates you have to attend to here are when is the unit arriving and when the unit's being purchased. The rest will auto-populate based on the deal desking and then for the holds. We have a question here from Airstream of Scottsdale mentioning, when creating a PO, can the floor plan lender be assigned? Yes, that is correct. When you're in the unit purchase ordering screen here, any of these POs that you're creating, the floor plan company is assigned right there. So even though the purchase, who we're purchasing from, say Forest River, Heartland, Thor, those will all go here. The floor plan company can be pre-defaulted right here for you. So automatically, even if that unit's not hitting the floor for another 15 or 20 days, we know automatically where that's going toward once that does hit our books. So it'll automatically be there. Hopefully that answered your question. So, and that goes for even if we haven't assigned the floor plan balance, we can still show that upon, purchasing and getting this unit in, this floor plan is belonging to Floor or Wells Fargo or, MPT or any of the floor plan companies out there. Some of the rest of the information up here up at the top is just pricing information coming from this section here in the financial. Most users will not be able to adjust this. This is just a reference to it. So if I want to change this, you'll come up here and put in our MSRP to see that populate. Okay, we've got our age. The age is simply a calculation from our purchase date. If I put the purchase date back to the 1st of this month, you'll see that the age now goes up by 8. It's a difference of today's date and the purchase date of this unit. So that's where your age of a unit is coming from. The lot locations field is for those of you who keep track of your units via a lot location. So, spaces, bays, zone, whatever you want to call them. You can set up lot locations to say, hey, this unit's currently sitting in lot location 1-5. So I'll go ahead and update that. And now the system will reflect exactly where on our lot that is. These lot locations can be changed by your porter technicians from the mobile application. So you can assign a lot move by telling a tech to, hey, I need you to get this out of 1-5 and move it to our bay. So I can call the porter and say that it's currently in 1-5. I need it moved to bay 1, going to select it, and I'm going to say to go bring that unit. So now our mobile application for our porters is going to have a task pop up for them to go move that unit. I won't spend much more time there, but for those of you that do lot locations, definitely let us know as you get access to the software. We'll help you set up your lots and show you that process to make sure they can quickly and easily perform those porter moves. In-service date, of course, for manufacturer warranty purposes, and then, of course, the manufacturer of that unit. So a lot of information can come from this header, right? A lot of the sales team can use this information to figure out what's going on here. But, of course, there is further detail. The detail like this information you're seeing here, the colors, the odometer reading, all of this information. However much of this you would like to pre-fill is completely up to you, dealership by dealership. This is different. I think the biggest factor here is how much of this do you want displaying on the website? If you want weight, height, gross vehicle weight, number of beds, number of tires, if you want this all populating on your website, we can do that. We can send all of this. Of course, now it's your inventories team responsibility to make sure that information is loaded in correctly before we push it to the web. So if that's the route you want to go, we need to make sure that everyone's filling out the units appropriately so that, all of that information feeds to our website in the way that we would expect. Okay. Another question I always get is, can we scan documents like the MSO or the manufacturer's accessories worksheet into here? You absolutely can. Every unit has its own designated documents folder. You can copy and paste any sort of PDF, doc, Excel, whatever you want into here, and this folder is specific to this stock number, so every unit will have its own. Now, this could be for more general documents. If you want financial information like the MSO or the POP or whatever, purchasing documents you want stored but you don't want available to your average salesperson or employee, on the financial tab, there's also an accounting documents folder. Same concept. It's dedicated for this unit, And if I go back a folder, you can see every unit's going to have its own dedicated folder. So financial information, floor plan info, anything you want to scan into the system or take pictures of, you just copy and paste it into that folder and it will be there forever. So you can keep, that sign-off form from Horizon, the transport company, to say their driver signed off saying there were no damages or whatever the case may be. Just know that you can store those here. And typically this financial tab is not available to everybody. So accounting specific information, things that are really, you want to be careful with, many times only your management team have access to this financial tab. Since there are GL account information here, purchase price information, we don't let everyone see this tab. So you're safe knowing that your accounting documents aren't visible to the whole company, just to those that we've given access to this financial tab to. So just something to keep in mind. Back on our detail tabs, we've talked about this. You've got RV motorized, travel trailer. Maybe you don't sell motorized units. Tell us when we're setting up your system, we'll remove that motorized tab so it does not display for each employee. If you do any consignment sales, we'll probably do separate trainings and deal desking regarding that, but typically a consignment unit, you just mark it as consignment here, and the system's expecting that instead of a floor plan company, you're putting the owner of that current vehicle here, as well as the consignment account. So now, instead of a floor plan company and floor plan account, I'm going to put in maybe accounts payable, and then maybe Mr. Greer is the one that owns this vehicle, so I'm going to find his entity record. He's Mr. Greer off 1423 Street. There he is. We're going to sell his unit. So now what's going to happen is when we sell this thing, it's going to create a payable equivalent to whatever we put here as a payable to Mr. Greer. That's the only difference between a consignment sale and a regular one, is simply checking this box and knowing that the information keyed in right here is now not floor plan information, but AP information. So pretty straightforward. We can always delve into that further, but just good to know it's that simple button click there to handle consignment. Any accessories you see on this tab are typically manufactured, installed, or standard. When you create new accessories or you assign, on the deal side, a customer agrees to a hitch and maybe a brake controller, when your service team drops that work and completes it, those accessories will populate here. So you'll always be able to see whatever work was done once it's completed. Typically, we're not driving accounting from this screen because, like I said before, either the accessories are included, right? So they're manufacturer standard, so they come included in the purchase price, but you will see the costs of any work that your team has done once that service ticket cashes out. I do have another question here coming back on the consignment section. On a consignment, can the AP change to a lender name if the consignment has a payoff? Absolutely. You would just reroute that in that field there. We can even create like an additional payoff account so that when this deal posts, it moves the balance out of regular AP into a payoff account to a specific vendor of your choosing. So yeah, you pretty much whatever you want to customize there can be completed. So really, we no longer treat it as a floor plan once that box is checked, and you have the freedom to change the lender. You can even split the payable between two at the time of the deal. You would just want to pay close attention to as that deal posts. But yep, shouldn't be a problem there. All right, so on the accessories, like I mentioned before, anything your team does will post here. You may have accessories lists now, in which case your team can start creating those. And in this edit modify table here up at the top, you're welcome. At this accessories codes table at the top, we could set this up. And if you look, watch what happens when I refresh for every accessory in the system. Now, I could specify by make and model what accessories are available. So every unit you stock in, I could preload make and model specific accessories. So then when I stock in a new Ford, it could preload some of those accessories based on, what's standard for that make and model. But again, this is best handled through those templates that I mentioned to you, because instead of having to go, okay, what are all my Ford accessories? So let's find them all. Let's click on make, or let's see if there's any Jayco ones in here. There may be. Okay, no, I didn't luck out here. So let's just find all accessories. And maybe I am stocking in a StarCraft, right? So now here's my list of all the StarCraft accessories. And now I have to add them one by one based on what this particular MSO states. So it's still pretty quick, right, for us to get all these onto our quote sheet to then show. But wouldn't it have been easier if I had copied this from a template? The template preloaded all of the standard accessories, and assuming that this is pretty straightforward, we just leave them on here. Or if this particular unit didn't come with a battery box, then we just remove the ones off that weren't there and call it a day. So whichever direction you want to take it, just know that getting these accessories coded in here first, then being able to freely pick them is much better than having to do this. Imagine if we hadn't done the accessories ahead of time, and now we say, okay, this came with power windows. You know, you'd have to do all this one by one. You can create accessories on the fly, but it is, of course, much easier to just have this pre-configured for you. So again, we're always about automation here, trying to preload as much information as you can. Yes, it's going to be a little bit of work getting your accessory codes keyed in at the beginning, but then it's much easier managing it going forward because they're all in here. Any service work that's been done on this unit is going to show here. So open tickets, closed tickets, you'll find all of that service history here, and you can jump right to repairs by hitting view or print repairs. Pretty straightforward. The customer tab is going to simply track when you do sell this unit to a customer. Remember, we keep sold records here. So if I leave this JCO in here and I go search up a sold unit, sold equals yes, list them all. Oh, I still had my Ford F-150 filter in there, but that's fine. I'll just pick one of these. Take a look. This sold unit, even though we sold this back in 2017, I still keep the record here. Every sold piece of inventory you sell will always be historically in here for research purposes, or let's say this vehicle comes back and there's a lot of issues with it. We can see everything that would ever been done to it, at least from this dealership, through all of this historical information being attached. So just wanted to show there that unit's still available to track, even though it's been gone for 3 years. I'm going to search back up that JCO that we just did. So JCO. Maybe I don't remember my model because my memory is bad. So let's try again. Let's just do all JCOs in the system. And I know that the age of that unit wasn't too crazy. So let's add that to our list. And I can see here already there's our Greyhawk, right? There's the one we just added in. So always pretty quick to get to a piece of a record, as long as you know at least one thing about it. The financial tab we've talked about briefly. I could spend a whole day on this unit, of course, on this tab, just because of how to do floor plan interest, other types of purchasing like freight, things of that nature. For those of you involved in the purchasing side, I would recommend you register for some of the accounting sessions, because typically there will be inventory purchasing. As a matter of fact, there may even be a webinar separate for inventory purchasing, just because we can spend a lot of time on that specifically. So I would just keep a lookout for those additional webinars, or on our next inventory webinar, which will be same time next week, so next Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, ask and say, hey, we don't floor our units, we purchase them at the auction with a check. How do we do that? Or, hey, we floor multiple units, whatever the case may be, just let us know and we can spend some more time on it there. But I do believe there is a separate webinar exclusively for purchasing units. I would suggest attending there, because we can go through how to assign freight, how to handle, split floor plans or moving the floor plan balance from one unit to the next. I've heard of all sorts of crazy things. So definitely ask and let us know what you run into, if it's not just your typical flooring transaction. Unit images can be stored here. So whether these are your photos you've taken, or maybe you have some kind of stock photos that you use for every JCO Greyhawk that you purchase, keep in mind these images can be pushed to your website. So if you put images in here on the unit, they can show up on your website automatically for you. To add those images, you just click on View Images and you copy and paste them in right here. That's it. It's that simple. So take the photos, get those onto your desktop in some form or fashion, and then copy and paste them right in here. You'll be good to go. The Internet tab is if you are pushing this information out to the web. You can have some specific fields just for the website, like hour price, sale price, special price. Those are going to be slightly different than your regular suggested selling price. So again, just more options that may show on the web that you don't want showing within the software. We can send these specific fields, this specific sales description up to the web for you. Keep in mind, this will only be utilized if the display on Internet Box is checked. Manufacturer pictures would be if we loaded manufacturer picture packs. I do believe they stopped sending these to us quite some time ago, so fortunately I don't have any of these available to you today. But if you did have a listing that you still receive, you could always send them to us and we can add them for you. But typically most dealerships I've worked with, they're taking their own photos these days. They're not using these standardized picture packs. This history, just like the history we talked about in the other modules, tracks every change, who did it, what the old value was, the new value, the date and time that it happened. So there's no discrepancies as to what's been going on within the system. If prices are changing on their own, probably someone changing it. We just need to figure out who and why. Sales costs, this is relevant if you don't use our accounting module and you just want to track the costs of the units, but you don't use any sort of GLs, or you use QuickBooks as your main accounting platform. So for those of you planning on using Infinity's platform for accounting, everything you saw in this financial tab is going to be, what you're wanting to use. Tasks, for those of you who are on our other sessions today, the task section is anything that is assigned to this unit, whether it's a unit sale or in this case, remember that porter task that I created earlier. So that's still out there. I can very easily see that my technicians haven't grabbed this porter task yet because it's not complete, and I can still see the bay hasn't changed. So until they attend to this task, I will continue seeing it out here incomplete. The floor plan tab is a dedicated tab if you wanted to track all of this floor plan information. Just note that this is still here, but sometimes you don't want users seeing the rest of this info, like purchase information, inventory, accounting transactions. So we can restrict a floor plan employee just to this tab so they can work on this information and not have to specify it here. But if I change something here, like I change this GL to 3210, note that it changes on both screens, just like the other ones. These custom tabs is a good place to leave off on. I know we've hit our end of our session here, and I thank you for spending the last few minutes with me. But these are something that you can create completely and customize your own screen. So you could relabel the names, you could create your own fields, we could pull fields from the other tabs and populate this tab. But some dealerships have needs that are different than others, right? You may have a boat dealership that has specific fields that the rest of the system doesn't have. Or maybe there's a piece of information like the port that your units get delivered on if you're in a port city to track deliveries. You could place that here as well. This is something that we won't spend too much time today on, but know that we can completely create custom fields and custom value and answers for them if something isn't being met on these other screens. And of course, we can report off of these as well. So as you all get familiar with this system, you may find one or two pieces of information that maybe the rest of the system can't account for you. Then we'll create them here in this custom tab and advise your team how to fill those out so you can continue collecting those pieces of data. So with that being said, we've talked about quite a bit here in the inventory. I could still spend probably 2 hours more on this module talking about all the different things we could do. But I think as a starting point, this is great to see how the system works, how to get this information keyed in, but probably to begin by asking yourselves, how do we want to use this module? How do we want to stock in our inventory? Do we create purchase orders? Do we copy from templates? Those are the conversations I begin having as you get closer to using this module. Is let's decide on what the best way is moving forward, and then hopefully that'll work out, or we realize it's not working out and we try one of the other methods. But maybe some combination of booking in inventory, depending upon what brands you book, will probably be necessary. So I'll leave these last maybe 2 or 3 minutes here for any other questions. For those of you that have already asked questions, thank you. Hopefully those questions were helpful to everybody. But I'll go ahead and leave the floor now. Otherwise, if I don't talk to you again, we will be holding another webinar session tomorrow morning. If you give me just a second here, let me pull up the schedule and I will see what's planned for tomorrow morning. And looking at the schedule, it looks that parts invoicing and parts kits will be first thing tomorrow morning. For any of you that are in the parts system or the parts department, that will be covering how to handle point of sale invoice transactions and how to set up parts kits. Question here from Airstream of Scottsdale. The question is, can an MSRP be loaded directly into inventory to populate the inventory file? Yes, so this MSRP, you saw me key it in here. That's just simply because the template that I copied from or the make model pick list that I copied from did not have an MSRP. So when you build that unit record in the system, we can preload that MSRP in a number of places, whether it's the make model pick list, right? So in my pick list here, if I scroll over, there's an option for standard MSRP, and that's going to be right here. Also, we can load up the MSRP from our templates. That's pretty obvious as long as the template has an MSRP. We can also go to the unit purchase orders. And on the purchase ordering side of things, there is an MSRP field here. Here's our base cost, but we can also assign an MSRP either from a markup or just directly typing it in total MSRP here. Oops, probably more than $50, right? So when you're loading in your inventory, whether it's from the GPOs, from the make model pick list, or from the templates, MSRP can automatically come over. So, or you could set it so the system has an automatic 17% markup off of every selling price for your MSRPs. You could even set that up by category. So we didn't really talk too much about this today, but you have something called a price category. So you could tell the system for every RV we purchase, we have a flat percentage markup on our selling price and our MSRP if you so choose. So definitely a number of ways of getting that information into the system. It would just be, you know, how do you receive it if it's on the invoice, and then where do we key it in on the purchasing side? So probably best to find out, you know, how we want to stock in our units. So we say, okay, we're going to use the make model pick list. Then, okay, then our first objective is to get all of our brands in this table, and then of course set our MSRPs for each by simply going down the list and assigning those. So I hope that answered your question for you there. All right, well, if nothing else has come through, I won't hold all of you hostage any longer. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for taking a couple minutes here afterward to hopefully answer some questions. And again, we're gonna be seeing this module multiple times over the next couple weeks. So anything that wasn't super straightforward or answered today, let's revisit it next week as we resume, or hopefully some of your questions can be answered in some of the future sessions throughout the other modules. But again, thank you all for your time. I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon, and we'll talk to you tomorrow at 10 a.m. For parts. Thank you, everyone.